All right, today we're going to look at multiple transformations. So we learned about translations, which are usually the slides. Those can be horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. Then we have the reflection, which is the flip over the x or the y axis. And then we have a rotation, and typically we do clockwise or counterclockwise. Remember 90-degree increments, so 90, 180, 270, and then 360 degrees. Dilation is either enlarging a figure or shrinking the figure itself. And so this chart is important that if there is a translation, reflection, rotation, or a combination of any of those, the images remain congruent. So same size, same shape. However, if there is a dilation added, then it does become a similar figure because it's no longer the same size. So it is important, like I just said about that two figures are congruent and one figure contained from the other sequence of translations, reflections, and rotations. However, if there is something with a dilation, which I'm going to highlight in a different color, that is what is going to change it from being congruent to similar. All right, so our next one here, for example 1, we're just going to write either that it's similar or congruent. So if there is a vertical translation and a dilation, because there is a dilation, that automatically means that they will be similar and not congruent. With a rotation and a reflection, they are congruent. If there is a reflection, a translation, and a rotation, still congruent. And then if we look at the dilation, remember dilation means similar automatically, no matter what else happens. All right, so when we're looking here at figure A, or example 2, letter A, we have figure 1 is congruent to figure 2. So what happens is that it rotated 90 degrees and it also had a slide of some kind. So rotation and a translation, because the translation is the same as a slide. And then over here for letter B, it says figure 1 is similar, not congruent. So that means that there is a dilation. We don't know what the factor is. And we also know that it is a reflection. So it is both. And it is a reflection because it is a different direction since it flipped over the line between the two figures. All right, here. Here we are going to perform multiple transformations. So my advice for you is once I go ahead and graph the rectangle A, B, C, and D, go ahead and pause this video and complete parts B and C. Now, if you need a little more help, you can obviously go through it, but try to pause it before I actually give you the answer. That way you'll be able to try it on your own as well. So for letter A, it is at -1, +1. So right here, I'm going to write letter A. And then -4, and then +1 is letter B here. Letter C is at -4, +5. And letter D is -1, +5. And we know that this is a rectangle, so we need to make sure that it has parallel and straight lines as best we can on our iPads. So then our second task here says rotate the figure 90 degrees clockwise. So if we remember back to rotations, which was last week, we talked about having an ordered pair X, Y, and that when it goes 90 degrees clockwise, it goes Y, comma, -X. So what that really means is that X and Y switch and the X becomes the negative. Or basically the X value becomes the opposite and then they switch spots. So if I want to do that for letter A here, my original is -1, +1. And this is my X, this is my Y. So what I need to do is my X becomes the opposite. So instead of -1, it becomes +1, and then they flip spots. So that means it's actually 1, 1 for my letter A here. For letter B, it's going to be 1, +4. For letter C, it's going to be 5, +4. And for letter D, it is going to be 5, +1. So now I'm going to graph those. And 1, 1 is right here. We're going to call that A prime, or A1. B is at 1, 4. Letter C is at 5, 4. And letter D is at 5, 1. All right, so I'm just completing those. Oops, didn't connect it. There we go. All right, so now we have our rectangle. Now, our next one here, it says for letter C, we are going to reflect A, B, C, D prime. That's what those little apostrophes in the upper right-hand corner mean. So our second image from letter B here over the y-axis. So we know that this is our y-axis. So what this means is that this is going to flip over to this side. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete that just so it's not as confusing. Remember that when you have a reflection over the y-axis, it is not the x value that changes, or sorry, it's not the y value that changes. The y stays the same, but the x value changes. So currently for letter A1, I have 1, 1. So what's going to happen is that my x is going to become the opposite, and my y is going to stay the same. So now I have -1, +1. For letter B, I had 1, 4, so now it's going to become -1, +4. And then for letter C, it's going to become -5, +4. And for letter D, it is going to be -5, +1. Now this is going to kind of go on top of that shape that is in green there. So just realize you didn't do something wrong. It's the exact same thing. For letter A, it actually ends up being the exact same thing. Then for letter B, it is at -1, +4. So that goes right here. Letter C is at -5, +4. And letter D is down here at -5, +1. All right, so I'm going to connect them. And like I said, it does go on top of that original green one, but notice that it did change its orientation. I have no idea why it's not giving me a straight line. There we go. So there is our completed multi-transformation. Like I said, I highly encourage you to pause the video. And for example 4, I'm also going to ask you to do that same thing, to pause the video and try doing it on your own. So for example 4, we're working with a triangle A, B, C. So -4, 0 is right here on the x-axis, letter A. Letter B is at 2, 4. And letter C is at 6, 2. All right, so with this triangle, it is different than triangles we've worked with in the past. It's not a right triangle. And also, it crosses over the y-axis, and it's in different quadrants. And it's not just in one. So when we do different types of transformations, it may change positions, it may cross over, and it'll be a lot of work. So I highly advise you to actually do it in different colors for each part. All right, so for letter B, it says perform the following transformations. We want to do half of x and half of y. So my original A is -4, 0. So half of x is going to be -2, and half of 0 is still 0. So my ordered pair is -2, 0 for my A. For my B, half of 2 is 1, and half of 4 is 2. For C, half of 6 is 3, and half of 2 is 1. All right, so we're going to go ahead and graph that at -2, 0. This is A prime. B prime is at 1, 2, and C prime is at 3, 1. Now notice this made a smaller triangle. We know it's going to be a smaller triangle, and the reason for that is because it is a scale factor of 1/2. There we go. Connected it all. All right, and our last one here. So this one says that we're going to add 2 to the x and subtract 3 from the y. So this is actually a translation, a slide. It's going up 2 on the X, which means it's going to the positive, so it's moving right 2, and it's going down 3 on the Y. So all I'm doing with my ordered pair from here, my A prime, I have -2, 0. So I'm going to add 2, and I'm going to subtract 3 from here. So now my new ordered pair is 0, -3. All right, so for letter B, I have 2, 4, and I'm going to add 2 to my X, and I'm going to subtract 3 from my Y. So this gives me 4, 1. Then for C prime, I had, I did that one wrong. Sorry, I actually used the original B value instead of the B prime value. Sorry, so I need to use this value here, 1, 2. Okay, so that goes to 3 and -1. And then I'm looking at my C prime value of 3, 1. And I'm going to be adding 2 to my 3 and subtracting 3 from my 1. So that gives me 5, -2. All right, so now I'm going to graph those ordered pairs. 0, -3 comes directly down on the y-axis here. So this is A double prime. And B double prime is at 3, and then -1 here. And C double prime is at 5, -2. So right here. There we go. All right. So this document didn't copy over correctly, so we're not actually going to do example 5. So if you do have any questions, remember to contact me via email. The sooner you let me know you're having issues, the more likely I can help you with any of this. And so